Hello and welcome. My name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury makeup. Today we are going to be taking a look at the new VISEART Petite 4 quads, and I did pick up all 4 of them, and I have an eye look to show you with each of these. And let's start off with packaging. So you do get a little, this is a little cardboard case to keep it in, and when you pull this out, you have a little ribbon that you can use to help open this. This is a foldable cardboard palette. These minis do not have a mirror on them, but it is a magnetic palette. You have all of your details on the palette on a sticker here on the inside, so it keeps your case nice and clean and beautiful. These are made in the US, by the way, and these are the 1.5 gram pans. So each palette has 6 grams of product total. They retail for $25 US, and they have a 3-year shelf life. So this one here is Peridot. And by the way, these do come with a plastic case. And look, it's not 100% exactly a square. See how that's not going on, right? Just turn it. But I would recommend keeping these. I actually don't usually keep these, but I do keep this. And so it helps prevent any like powder, dust, or anything from coming on the outside when you use this. So I would recommend keeping that. So let's go ahead and swatch Peridot first. And I have to say, this is my favorite of the 4. I was so excited to see this. We have a matte warm brown. There is a satin cooler tone brown, a nice shimmery emerald green, and a Peridot or spring green. And you can see how metallic and sparkly that is. So I think that is stunning. And we are going to go over some comparisons of these. But first, let's go ahead and swatch all of them. So then we also have Garnet. So Garnet is a little deceptive. Doesn't this look like a cooler brown? It's actually quite coppery, so especially on the eyes. So we'll take a look at that, but I think it's a gorgeous combination. I'm just leaving room here for some comparison swatches. All right, so you can see we have like a copper shade here. It's kind of like a bright copper with a touch of bronze. And then we have a warm, rich chocolate brown, but there's a touch of red in there, gives it some warmth. And then we have a matte ivory and a metallic garnet, which is really like a cranberry garnet shade. We're going to swatch on this arm as well. This one here is Bullion, and you can see that this is going to be your most neutral of all of the palettes. It's really beautiful, very classic. You know, it's like a classic holiday palette. So you have kind of this shimmery, warm champagne shade. There are peachy tones in there. You can see that that is a like satin metallic there. And then we have something a little bit warmer with some brown. It's actually a little bit coppery. It's like a hint of copper, but obviously nothing compared to the one in Garnet. And then we have a bright yellow gold with a touch of antiquity in there and a matte black. And last up, this is Lapis. And I think this is a really gorgeous quad. This is what I have on my lids right now. Look at this silver. Like, it looks like it's going to be a pure bright silver, but there is actually a touch of like baby blue in there. So it's not just silver. There is a little bit of blue. And you have, again, kind of like this bronzy gold shade. You have a bright silvery blue, a matte cream, and this gorgeous like sapphire blue. It's stunning. I mean, I really love that shade. So you can see all 4 here. You can see that none of them are going to have any shades that are quite the same. One of the great things about these quads, all the pans are magnetic and removable. You can mix and match. You can pair these up with other 1.5 gram pans from the VISEART shadows. Let's go ahead and take a look at the eye looks, and then we'll come back for some comparisons. Going to go into the camel shade here, and this is the Hakuhodo J5523. And you can see it's not totally round like a typical crease brush, but it's a little bit fluffy, so I thought this would work. I'm gonna take the same brush. I'm gonna go into this more olive brown shade, and I'm just gonna tap a little bit of this here on the outer portion. So I'm wiping the brush off, and I'm just gonna take a little bit of what I put in the outer portion and start to blend that into the crease slightly. We might as well just use the same brush the whole time. Let's go into the deepest green here, this more emerald shade. And we're gonna tap this on right adjacent to that. And then let's go into this spring green shade here as well, pea green, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to put this in the inner portion. Just extend over a little bit. So I wiped off the brush, and I'm just going to use that to feather a little bit of those two shades together, those two greens. All right, so this is the eye look up here, and let's go ahead and use the lower lash line. So this is another new brush from Hakuhodo, or new to me. I mean, it's the J5529. You can see it's a small crease style brush, but you can see also that it's not super flexible. So I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna use this for the lower lash line. And I think we're just gonna use these two. So we're gonna put this on the outer portion, this on the inner portion. So I'm gonna start with the deeper, and I'm just gonna put it on the outer, maybe like the outer third. Okay, so this is the lighter green now. And I'm just gonna put this. All right, so that's it. I'm going to line the upper lash line with a green eyeliner. I'm going to use the Sisley matte eyeliner. This is the Fido Kohl Star in shade 3 Jungle. Just going to put this on the upper lash line. And I'm just softly smudging that. All right, I'm going to finish my makeup. I'll show you from a distance. And this is the final look from a distance. So I added the Kjaer Weis Impossible Mascara, the Givenchy Mr. Brow Groom Pencil in 2, and the Clear Gel. I have on the Westman Atelier Cream Blush in Doo Doo, the Chantecaille Holiday Pearl Lumiere Highlighter, and my base is the Sisley Le Teint Foundation in 0R. Lips, I have on the Lisa Eldridge Lip Pencil in Muse all over. And then I topped it with this gloss from Ilia in, this one is Maybe Violet. And that's everything. All right, we're going into the Garnet palette, and I'm taking the Hakuhodo J5533 into this like matte ivory shade. And I'm going to start this in the crease, but work it up to the brow, and whatever's left on the brush just as a base on the eyelid. I'm taking the Hakuhodo B142 into the copper shade here. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in the inner corner and work that in a little bit. You can see it's a very vibrant copper, and I'm going very softly because I don't want too much pigment here. Next, I'm taking the Hakuhodo B004G into this brown shade. Now, this is a flat styler brush, and I'm going over the copper a bit. I'm going to extend this just past the halfway point. I'm gonna add a little bit more on top of that. I have to say this brown is warmer and richer than I expected. I'm gonna use the same brush and go into the Garnet shade itself. Going back to the Hakuhodo J5533, no additional product, just kind of blending this a little bit in the crease area. And this brush here, this is the B142 that I used on the copper shade. And I'm just using this to kind of blend all of the transition areas a little bit. Very, very, very lightly. All right, for the lower lash line, I'm going back with the B004G into the brown, but I'm just gonna put it right here on the tip. So I've got some there. I'm just knocking off any excess on my cloth. Just going to lightly put this on the lower lash line. You can see the copperiness from here. I mean, you could see it on the eye too, but I can see, you know, that it could be confused with the copper shade that was already on there. You can see on its own how coppery this is. It does not look coppery in the pan. It actually looks cooler. All right, going in with the B142, I'm going to go into the cream shade here. So this is a crease brush that's a little bit firmer. It's less fluffy compared to the other one I was using. So I'm just going to put this here to kind of dilute and move a little bit of the brown. And for liner, let's go ahead. We'll use a Garnet shade today. And I'm just going to use this B004G. So just the tip of the brush here. And let's place that right along the lash line. All right, so here's the final look. I'm gonna finish my makeup and then I'll see you in a second. And this is the final look from a distance. So I had the Kjaer Weis mascara, the Givenchy Mr. Brow pencil in 2, the Tom Ford blush duo in a flame mixed together, topped with the Givenchy holiday highlighter in 10 organza ore. And on my lips, I have a mix of the Tom Ford lipstick in Blazing Kiss, as well as the In the Buff lip gloss. And that's it. All right, so I have the VISEART eye primer on. We're starting with the Hakuhodo B142, and I'm going to dip into the matte black and just going to put a little bit of this, knocking off the excess here. I'm going to put a little bit of this in the outer portion, the outer third here. So just going to dab it on here. Just gonna get a little bit more of that right down by the lash line here. And that's it for the black. Next, I'm taking a slightly fluffier crease brush. This is the J5533 from Hakuhodo. I'm gonna go into this lighter shade, the lightest shade, and I'm going to put this kind of in the crease, starting from here so I can drag a little bit of that black into it. Next, I'm taking the B004G from Hakuhodo. I'm going to go into this side. This brush, you know, I used it before, but it has been wiped off. So I am using the other side to be on the safe side, but this is the new shade here. And I'm going to go ahead and put this on. Look at that. And I'm going to go over the black with this, just tapping a little bit over the black. So I have some depth of color there. And then I'm going to use the same brush. I'm going to go into the lightest shade for the inner portion and just kind of blend that a bit here with the adjacent shade. I just love how that adds some brightening. I think this look on its own is just perfect. I didn't even use the gold, but I do want to try out the gold. So let's put a little bit of the gold just here in the inner corner. I want to see how bright it is, and maybe we'll line the lashes with this as well. So I'm taking the Hakuhodo T8 into the gold, and I'm just swirling my brush in here. And I'm going to use this just in the inner corner at the moment. And I think for the lower lash line, let's go back into this more beigey satin shade. I'm going to use this T8 brush as well. So this is for the lower lash line. And for the gold on the upper lash line, I'm going to take a drop of the Esom Mixing Medium. And I'm just putting this on the back of my hand. And I'm going to use a liner brush. This is the Kitty Jane Hughes and Spectrum brush in number 22. So I've got that on here, and I'm just getting a little pigment on the brush. And I'm going to kind of paint this on my hand a little bit to make sure that it's not chunky on the brush and I have the right consistency. You can always dip more into more of the liquid or more of the shadow as needed. I'm gonna get a little more shadow here. And for me, I like it not too wet because I find it easier if it's more pasty than liquidy. So I'm just going to go across the upper line with this. And let's just go over this again. So there's the gold. You can see it, but it's not like a super strong shade. All right, so there's that look. And this is the final look from a distance. So I added the Kjaer Weis Impossible mascara, and on my face I have the Sisley La Tint foundation in 0R, followed by the Givenchy Prisme Libre powder in Sparkling Lavender, and the blush is Tom Ford in 6 Flame, topped with the Givenchy highlighter in Organza Ore, number 10. And on my lips, I have Tom Ford Blazing Kiss, followed by the Tom Ford Gloss in the Buff. And that's it. All right, so I have the VISEART eye primer on, and we're starting off with the Sonia G Classic Crease into this matte cream shadow. I started putting this on already. We're just gonna do a light dusting. Sorry for the helicopter. I feel like a lot of times palettes pair the blue and the silver together, and you know, they don't necessarily always have something warm with it. So I think we're going to pair more of these two together and use the silver as an inner corner highlight. So let's start off with the brown. I'm going to use the Worker Pro from Sonia G into this brown shade here, just tapping off any excess. And we're going to put this about just to about the halfway point. Look at that color. It's really pretty. Let's add just a little bit more of this. And let's use my finger on the other side. So it does make it a little bit more pigmented, but really the big reason to use your finger would be it's just faster to get to that level. Of course, I always make a mess with my fingers. All right, same brush going into the blue. And you know, now holding the pan at this certain angle, it's actually not silver. It looks like it's like a light blue. So I think maybe I need to revisit that. Right, and let's use the blue on my finger on this side. I feel like they're pretty similar. I mean, it is a little bit more pigmented with the finger, but I don't feel like it's significant. Let me just blend that a little bit. And I'm just using the crease brush to kind of clean up there a little bit. I was gonna go ahead and just use this silver shade in the inner corner, but I think since it actually has like a more of a frosty silvery blue vibe, let's add a little bit of this right here in the center where these shades kind of meet. And I'm gonna take this Sonia G and just kind of feather those edges a bit. Just gonna take a little bit more of the silver shade on the brush. I'm kind of going over things on both sides, but I'm gonna go back in with some of that as well. So I actually want them a little bit kind of mixed together. All right, going back in with a little bit of this like coppery brown and just going back in from the inner corner and lightly tapping over where the silver is. And I'm just taking a little bit of the deeper blue and just tapping that right there on the outer corner. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just clean up the crease a little bit. And for the lower lash line, I'm actually going to do a mix of these. So I'm gonna put the silvery blue on this half and the brown on the outer half, and then kind of just blend them a little bit. And I'm gonna use the tip of the Worker Pro here. All right, so there's that. I'm going to use the deep blue as an eyeliner, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and get that wet. So I have a drop of the Eastern Pro mixing medium, and I'm using the Refer 23 brush. So I get it wet, and then I kind of wipe it on here until it's like a little bit drier. And then I'm just swirling it in here and go back to one of the spots where I kind of wiped it off, wiped some of the liquid off, and just twirl it in to get the right consistency. And twirl the brush as I'm applying. This is a, wow, look at this color as it's, sorry, getting more liner here, but look at it as it's going on. Like, it's so beautiful. It's such a vibrant blue. You know, honestly, I think maybe with this palette, most of the time I would probably use like the silver and the copper on the lid, or one or the other, and then just use the blue as a liner. So there's that. I'm going to finish my makeup. I'll see you in a second. And this is the final look from a distance. It's very festive, also very patriotic. So I added the Surratt Torche Lumiere in Diamante as my highlighter. And I also added a touch of that under the brows because I did want to have a little brightening there, but I didn't want something quite as metallic as the shadows. So I used that instead. I love these highlighters personally. They are like a cream stick formula, but it's like a drier cream, so it doesn't feel like super wet or anything. Otherwise, I also have the Chanel Holiday Lipstick in 177 or 176 Independant, and that's on my lips. Blush is Rose Ink in Ophelia. Foundation is Sisley Latent, and the Givenchy brow product. Mascara's Cure White's Impossible, or maybe it's I'm Possible. Not sure which way it's supposed to be said, but that's it. So we're gonna start off with looking at the Peridot palette, and this here is the Dior Nightbird palette. So I'm not gonna swatch the peachy shade since that's obviously not in here, but these other four, we will swatch those. And let's put that right here. So this is Dior Nightbird. You can see that the VISEART metallics are much more, they're more intense than the Nightbird. And really none of them quite are the same, but these two kind of like a muted version of a deeper and lighter shade of the Peridot there. And let's also take a look at Dior Jungle. And I'll just, again, I'm not gonna swatch the center shade. We don't have like a brown that deep. Actually, we don't have quite a lot of these here that I swatched, but let's go ahead, and that's the peach. This is going to be the satin ivory. And this here is bottom left. It's going to be the closest to anything in there, but really it doesn't quite go. And this is the really deep green there. So you can see the difference in those. I think this Peridot palette is quite different from any of the other green ones I have. I really like it. I think the colors blend beautifully. The formula is fantastic. It's a really gorgeous palette. Moving on to the Garnet palette, I wanted to take a look at the Tom Ford Honeymoon. And although this is not going to be like a dupe or anything like that, it is what it reminded me of. Although the VISEART is more intense. So here's Honeymoon. You can see even the red there is not going to be quite as red as the Garnet. And we don't really have quite so much of these like brighter coppery tones. This would be the closest, but you can see it's really more like these two mixed together and then softened. This is the Dior Early Bird. We're just going to swatch the red shade from this. And let's put that right here by Garnet. You can see that the Dior is going to be more pink. Now, before we move on, this is the VISEART Bijouette palette that just came out. So you can see the reds and the greens don't match from either of these palettes, but I did want to take a look at these three like coppery brown shades here, and we'll compare these to the ones here in the Garnet palette. So let's squeeze that in there. You can see how close that is. That actually looks like it could be the same shade. I don't know if it is technically or not, but I would say that those are definitely very close. This might have like a touch more brown, but honestly, those are very close, but that's it. There are no other ones quite like that in there. Now I have seen people commenting that these four look similar to the Garnet, just more muted. They really don't. They really are not anything like it. You know, I'll just go ahead and swatch like a couple of these. We don't have a lot of space left, but you can see these are going to be softer, more muted tones. And these are more like mauve-y shades. So the shades in the Cashmere, this is Cashmere from VISEART, none of those are going to match anything or even come close to matching anything in these quads. All right, so we're going to move on to actually the Lapis. And this is the Makeup by Mario, and this one is the Party Glam palette. So this is by far the closest. You can see that the color story is going to be fairly similar. So let me go ahead and compare these. So that's the Makeup by Mario. You can see color-wise, those are really close. The Makeup by Mario is a little bit lighter and has a little bit more green in it. We don't have that matte blue. This is going to be more of a yellow gold versus the coppery shade. And you can see that the silver has more blue in Mario, and it's a bit of a deeper gray in there. It's not like a charcoal gray or anything like that, but it has a little bit more like pewter mixed with blue compared to like a brighter silver mixed with blue. But I would say that, you know, they are pretty close. My last comparison for Lapis would be this one here from Dior. This is the Denim. And these are the top three shades here. Oh, sorry, that's from the last palette still. But let's go ahead and we're gonna put these here. You can see that Denim is much more like of this like blue-green color story than the Lapis. You can see those are gonna be more green. So I don't really compare. The Makeup by Mario quad's definitely gonna be just one more shade I wanted to compare. This is the blue in the Bijouette palette. And let's put that right here. We'll put that right between the Mario and the one from Lapis. You can see that the blue in Bijouette is much brighter, you know, more of a cerulean blue compared to more of the sapphire in Lapis, which I guess should be like the Lapis Lazuli. So very, very beautiful, but they're very different. Moving on to the Bullion quad. Now, honestly, this made me think of Nude Dip. And it's not so much the color story, but it's more the finish of the shadows, because these have kind of that frosty finish, which I feel like Bullion does on my eyes. So I'm gonna swatch these just right above. So that's Nude Dip compared to Bullion. but you can see that they have kind of that same glistening finish. It's pretty similar. It's not the same per se, but because you have more like sparkle bits in the VISEART, this is a little bit more finely milled shimmer. It's more of a true frost. But it did remind me of that. And then I wanted to take a look at Dior Golden Snow. We're going to look just at this gold shade right now. So here's the gold. This is definitely going to be too yellow. Yeah, does not match Bullion. And the first thing that it made me think of here is the Chanel quad. So we're going to go ahead and swatch these 5 shades with Bullion. So here's Bullion. Here's Chanel. Now you can see that these are going to be more shimmer versus these are more of a metallic frost. The shades in the Bullion are going to be a little bit more coppery and more intense. The black matte is pretty similar, but it's a little bit cooler in Bullion versus Chanel, which is a little bit more neutral. And I think the major difference is really going to be the finishes. They're honestly not really anything alike. And this is the Givenchy holiday palette. So let's take a look at these two here and see how they compare. So here's the Bullion. Let's put those right here with it. You can see that they, they're not like dupes or anything, but they do kind of go along with the color story. You've got a deeper brown here instead. The other shades, none of them quite go, but they all kind of go together. So I do think that this would probably be a good alternative to the Bullion. If you want to get a similar look, but it won't be quite the same. And that's going to be it for my comparisons. So I have gone through all of these little Petit Four from last year. This is the Chocolat and the Praline and so forth. These color stories are different and none of the shades are really all that close to any there. However, if you have any requests for any comparisons for any additional products I might have, please let me know. I'd be happy to compare them. Speaking of that, I actually just remembered I wanted to also look at the gold in the Dior Atelier Doré. Atelier Doré. So here's that gold. Let's just put that right here. Yeah, it's also gonna be too yellow. So that's it. So I hope this was helpful. Overall, I think these Petit Four are fantastic quality. I have not had issues with any shade in these. The formula is great. They go on well. They work wet, they work dry, and they've got a great shelf life. They're a great price point. These would make a great gift for somebody. You could use these as stocking stuffers or, a great gift for like a work exchange or something like that as well. So I think they're fantastic and I absolutely love them. Now for me, my favorite is the Peridot, followed by Lapis, Bullion, and then Garnet. The Garnet is actually a fantastic palette that I think would be totally gorgeous on somebody with warmer skin coloring. On me, it's just not my comfort zone kind of colors. So that's why it ranks at the bottom. But I think if you have warmer skin tone, that might end up being like towards the top of the list, to be honest, because it's a really great palette. And I feel like the way that they combine the colors in that are just slightly different than a lot of other ones with similar color stories. These, it goes more coppery and so forth. And I think it's really beautiful. So overall, those are my thoughts. I hope this was helpful. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'll see you very soon. Have a great day and stay safe and healthy.